Police Chief Tom Riff.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Before we get into the details, Chief Milstead and I just want to take a couple minutes here to talk about our roles in our respective agencies and why this was so important for us and why we brought together a task force to deal with this. It's unfortunate that in the United States, rape and sexual assault, in my opinion, is an epidemic. In fact, reports are that over 237,000 sexual assaults occur annually. And to shock the conscience even more than that, it's also reported that 60% of sexual assaults are left unreported. One of the questions may come up today regarding this individual and the assaults that he's committed within our community is, are there more out there? And our answer is we don't know. We don't have any reports that we have been able to locate to show that he is involved, but the fact of the matter is, as mentioned, 60% go unreported. And so we'd like to take this as an opportunity to get out to our community also. If you have had any contact with this individual, please make sure that you contact your local police department and let us know about this. Why is this issue so important? Why is it that sexual assaults occur daily? Every 2 minutes nationally a sexual assault occurs, but why so much media attention? Why so much public attention to this issue? The fact of the matter is in democracy, we base our foundation as citizens to protect our community. Two members of our community that we cherish, children and our adults. Our children and adults are very vulnerable. In this case, you have a situation where a 91-year-old woman who is not able to protect herself, defend herself. You have issues with her hearing, sight, and the fact that a predator would prey on a 91-year-old victim is unconscionable. I think that answers the question as to why did we, as a law enforcement organization, reach out to Mesa PD and the U.S. Marshal's Office to make this a priority. Why did we put together a task force to go after this individual with every police resource we have available? Why do we continue to reach out to the community and have discussions about this? It's because our elderly are vulnerable and our youth are vulnerable, and not 1 second is going to go by in our professions that we won't make this a top priority. Before I turn it over to Chief Milstead, I'd like to thank the members of the Tempe Police Department, Mesa Police Department, folks working in our crime analysis unit, crime labs. These folks, ladies and gentlemen, have worked tirelessly, nonstop, to bring this individual to justice. He will have his day in court. I'll turn it over now to Chief Milstead. He can talk a little bit more about this case and what we're dealing with as police chiefs. But again, thanks to Chief Milstead for his professionalism, the support of the Mesa Police Department, our staff here in Tempe, U.S. Marshal Gonzalez and his staff. I tell you, when you take a look at going about fighting crime, this was a joint effort, and hats off to law enforcement for a job well done, and apologies to our community that we had a predator like this that had the opportunity to prey upon our elderly. We've done our best. We've done done a good job bringing this person into custody, and now we'll set it up for the appropriate prosecution for his acts. Thank you.
I want to talk just a little bit about how we got to where we are today, the collaboration that existed with this particular case. In the Mesa Police Department is a fusion center. That fusion center is occupied by local municipal police officers and also with state and federal partners. That fusion center is responsible for fusing data, crime information from across the region, the East Valley particularly, about things that are going on. Over the course of the reign of wrath that this individual took upon Mesa and Tempe, the analysts that were in the fusion center started to realize that they had a pattern and they had a serialized criminal. When we have serial criminals, we have to jump on it fast and immediate as soon as we know what's going on. From my time at Phoenix PD, I will tell you, working the baseline killer Mark Godot and working the AM rapist David Wilson Jr., I had seen what had happened, and I can see how fast these things grow, so we knew it was important to put the task force together immediately and start working this thing really around the clock. And what Tom was talking about with the nature of the work that went in, these officers have worked around the clock over the last several weeks to make sure that this came to a positive conclusion with the arrest of Mr. Owen. I want to talk also a little bit just about how you become a victim and what the temptation is to be a good human being. we in general want to trust people. This guy was an opportunist. He knocked doors in the area asking people to use their phone. He tried to befriend people. If I look at the cases from my previous time at Phoenix PD, they were opportunists, people leaving windows unlocked, doors unlocked, leaving their homes unoccupied and unlocked, and going inside and unlocking windows or doors so they could come back later and perpetrate their crime. We look at the trend of sexual assaults. Even in the city of Mesa, we see that our sexual assaults are often, in fact most times, committed by known offenders, people that they meet online, social media. People what I'm telling you this for is it's time that you really have to watch yourself. If you're going to meet somebody you don't know, meet them in a public place, you got to lock your doors and windows when you're not around. And if somebody is suspicious or you think somebody shouldn't be wandering around looking to use a phone or whatever it is, that you need to report that to your local police. The progression of Mr. Owen's crime started out as a peeping Tom. And then he began to not only be a peeping Tom, but he masturbated while looking in the windows of people's houses. Ultimately, he comes to Tempe and he commits a sexual assault of a 90-year-old woman. It escalated, it grew. And if we can get to these people sooner because you see something that's suspicious as a citizen, you are our eyes and ears. We will respond to all of those calls, and we want to make a difference in all of our communities. So I'm going to turn it back over to Detective or Lieutenant Pooley, and I think he's going to let a couple of the commanders from our respective agencies talk.
Yeah, to get into specifics on the case, and we are going to turn the time over if Commander Kim Hale, Tempe Commander Kim Hale, and Mesa Commander Jeff Thompson, they're both over the investigations unit and had a big role in overseeing this entire investigation. First, Commander Jeff Thompson from Mesa PD will address you.
Good morning. I just want to touch a little bit about what occurred in Mesa and how this moved forward from our incidents in our jurisdiction that actually ended up coming over here to Tempe. Starting back in January of 2012 was our first incident involving this individual. Over the course of about 2 years, we were looking into a series of incidents involving trespassing reports as well as indecent exposures. Over those 10 incidents, we had 4 of which where the individual actually was seen exposing his genitalia, 3 of which he had actually masturbated and left semen DNA at the scene. We were able to link up that DNA through our crime lab, knowing that we were dealing with the same individual. Unfortunately, we were not able to identify him. It was an unknown sample that we had at the time through our investigative efforts. Unfortunately, and moving forward from there, in October of this year, when the sexual assault occurred in Tempe, through their DNA, we were able to link it up and know that we were dealing with the same individual at that point. Commander Hale, would you like to talk about your cases?
As Commander Thompson stated, in October, when our victim was sexually assaulted, the DNA came back to a match, and we knew we had the same offender, but it was an unknown offender still to both agencies. Truly at that point the manhunt began. But in any investigation, when you start having unknown offenders, you have an investigative component, and then you have an operational component that's trying to find your suspect. And it's a coordination of those 2 groups that really becomes critical in any of these investigations. I cannot say enough about the detectives in both agencies and the hard work and the time and effort that they put into this case and the passion that they showed in working this. And that's what truly made this thing a success. The analysts from both agencies were working with our detectives in trying to put together a really clear picture on the gravity of the incidents that we're dealing with, the type of the suspect, and the nature of the crime. When the time came to pull out different tools and investigative resources, it was from that clear picture and from what they were able to show us that we were able to use those tools to help bring him to justice and to apprehend him. Some of the things that transpired during this investigation is not only did we form the task force that we put together, and the U.S. Marshals joined with us with Mesa and Tempe. We started the investigation in trying to find out who is behind this DNA. One of the, MOs or the modus of operandi that this guy operates under, as Chief Milstead stated, was the knocking of doors and the grooming of his victims and trying to his victim selection processes that he would use in trying to find those vulnerable victims which he was preying upon. In one of the incidents following our sexual assault, we had an apartment complex that he was being targeting, looking for another victim. And it was the knocking of doors and contacting different folks. And it was at that point he made one of his critical errors in that he went to a convenience store to purchase something prior to one of those incidents. Our patrol officers, being on the ball and being good investigators, not only did a good canvass and identified folks whose door he was knocking on, but also went and pulled some video from one of the convenience stores. It was that clip of video that we got the first real true picture of who we were dealing with and who we started to look for. And then we were able to go back, our detectives were able to go back, recontact those folks during the canvass that was made, and said, okay, this is the method in which he's selecting his victims. Do any of these people look familiar? And through a photographic lineup, all of them came back and identified the suspect that you're looking at here on the screen. And from there, we were able to obtain a court order to bring him in, obtain his DNA, and part of the unique process of this story might be is the fact that there's a new technology out there called rapid DNA. Through the rapid DNA process, we're able to identify and establish probable cause that the DNA hit from our suspect came back to the same unknown samples that were identified through the Mesa cases and our sexual assault. And that's what truly then started the manhunt to find Ekwunze Owen. And the public was very helpful. I think we had over 200 tips that we were investigating as the agencies and the task force. We had family, friends, and associates understood the gravity of this. This is not a suspect that grew up in a poor home. He grew up in a good home with people that cared about him, but he went about his own way. And so everybody together was assisting us in this investigation to bring him to justice. And we had a very, very strong victim. Although 91 years old, although vulnerable, she was very on the ball, very strong, and was very helpful in this investigation to also, bring this man to justice. And that's kind of how this all came to fruition. So, questions?
Has he admitted to any of the crimes?
Yes, he did make admissions during the night of his capture, and we're able to use. Obviously, those admissions are helpful to us, and they'll be part of the whole courtroom testimony that's yet to play out.
Did he give any reasoning or say anything about why he did this, or did he state that he has some sort of a problem?
I don't want to get into the specifics of his testimony right now, but he did make admissions to participating in some of these crimes. Yes.
Where was he living? Was he living with somebody or?
He didn't have a lot of means, and so he traveled from different places. In this particular case, he was living in West Tempe, sleeping in a common area of an apartment, and I don't know exactly what the rental situation was, but he lived several different places in a short period of time.
Is that where you arrested him, in that common area?
No, he had moved over to an apartment on Apache, staying with some different acquaintances or friends, and that's where we were able to locate him, and the detectives took him into custody.
What do we know about the woman that he was found with last night before he was taken into custody?
She is a girlfriend that he has had for quite some time. They do have a child in common, and so they were traveling together, and he knew the gravity of what he had done, and he knew once the detectives had brought him in and obtained his DNA that his days were numbered, and that we were going to find him and the cases were going to come down hard on him. So he wanted to spend some last time with his girlfriend, and before that happened. So.
Could she
Was she
be
aware of
facing any charges if she was aware of the crimes?
Right now, that's not the direction that we're going. She's also I'll tell you, she was a past victim of domestic violence. Right now, we're not ruling that out, but at the same time, that is not the focus of the investigation.
Can you talk a little bit about the DNA and how you guys were able to finally obtain the sample that linked the DNA to him one more time?
Yes, previously, as I talked about, we were able to, from how he operated in his victim selection, use that information, plus all the prior acts, to get a court order to bring him in and obtain his DNA via a court order. And with that DNA that we obtained via the court order, we're able to process it through the rapid DNA process and get a match for probable cause to go out and bring him in.
You said he admitted to some of the crimes. Did he admit to the 91-year-old woman?
Yes.
Or what about the 3 inmates then?
I'm not exactly sure of the extent of all the crimes. I'd have to go back and listen to all the interviews again from what it was, but the one that we were focused on as our agency was definitely the Tempe case. Each detective had an opportunity to interview with him and talk to him, and so I don't want to be remiss and miss one that he admitted to and did not. So
He did admit the big one, which,
the sexual assault he did with our 91-year-old victim, yes.
And this weekend, he managed to get inside someone's apartment. Is that what we heard previously? He got inside and then...
Yeah, we had a victim that reported that he was inside trespassing, they believe through a bedroom window that he crawled through. The screen was lifted off that window. So that was the victim left, screaming and yelling, which brought the police out to that particular incident, and that's which led the patrol officers to do the canvass and obtain the video from the nearby convenience store, knowing that, based on what he had done, matched the description of what was occurring in Mesa and what happened to our 91-year-old victim, and we're able to obtain some of that information and
Was he
evidence.
canvassing other apartments at the same place that he...
And possibly, not that I'm aware of. I'm sure he was very predatory, and so he could have been, canvassing other apartments. That's probably part of this information to get out to the public is that when people are going door to door and knocking and asking for strange things like, can I use your phone, or do you mind holding some property for me, or whatnot, if it seems a little bit off-putting or a little different, those are good calls for us for suspicious activity, that we can come out and identify these people early on, and so that, when he started this whole incident, as Commander Thompson talked about, he started out with maybe peeping Tom, and then progressed to trespassing into back patios, which progressed then into masturbating in public and indecent exposures. This was a progression of acts that occurred over a period of time, where now he started going into sexual assault, entering apartments, contacting people, and we would like to contact and identify these people early on, back in 2012 if possible, through suspicious activity, and maybe we're able to curb and cut off some of the serious crimes before they actually begin.
Did he ever have weapons with him, or I mean...
Not to my knowledge. His victims were vulnerable, and so I don't think that he felt as though he needed them when he's dealing with vulnerable victims, and to my knowledge, he did not have weapons.
Did he admit to any crimes that you guys didn't know about before?
Not to my knowledge.
Any other past record on him?
Nothing significant, and that's why he was an unknown offender to us. He had some past, record, but nothing significant to the point where there's DNA from a prior felony, act that he had committed.
Does he have a job or anything that we're aware of?
He does not have regular employment that we're aware of.
Concerned there's additional victims out there possibly.
Possibly, and through the information that out through the media, you play an important role and an important tool for law enforcement oftentimes to get the message out to the public, not only for public awareness, but also the tips that come through and you've helped to provide for us to help capture these folks, and so we appreciate your assistance in that as well.
I know you said obviously more victims could come forward, but is it especially concerning seeing that he was arrested just east of ASU campus, and there you've got tens of thousands of people in a concentrated area? You know what I mean? I mean, he could have continued this spree, and who knows who he's been with or who he could have come into contact with,
It's true. Whether it's a camping, for our victims in Tempe, they're all close to ASU campus. ASU has a large footprint in the city of Tempe, and they're all relatively close. His victims were all, typically over the age of 50. So we don't have any indication that there is any danger to the ASU campus or the ASU population, or perhaps maybe the professors that might be living in the neighborhood surrounding it. But for any crimes for us, when we got somebody sexually assaulting, anybody, that's a serious crime, whether it's close to an ASU campus or a church or a school. We're dotted with elementary schools and high schools, and so it's a serious crime, and we pursue those with vigor. So
This suspect had serious criminal behavior linking back to 2012. We're now in 2014. As soon as you guys got that DNA match, you knew that you had to act very fast. What was your worst fear had he not been caught?
Well, I'll back up before that. Our analysts were able to work with the Fusion Center and say that this activity that's going on in Mesa since 2012 is similar to what's going on with our sexual assault victim. At that point, we knew that we had to act with I guess, a good show of force and put a lot of resources into this to find him. The DNA then, the match of that started the manhunt. you know, the fear is obviously any reoffense. And so we're trying to make sure that we're putting enough resources into this to try to identify this person, and then once we've identified him, to then bring him to justice as quickly as possible, so that not only we can, you know, finish the case, but it's about protecting the public. And, you know, we're here to fight crime and protect the public. Public safety is part of our title, and that's, you know, what we're here for.
And it seemed like clearly with this individual's behavior and the pattern that you guys saw, that he would have just been probably most likely looking for his next victim. That's what it's based on, his behavior in the past.
Absolutely, and we have evidence of that from the activity at the apartment complex, you know, all but a week ago when he was knocking doors and contacting people asking to use their phone. He was a predator.
All right, is there any more questions? We're going to wrap it up now.
Will you release the video from the convenience store?
We'll get you guys something as soon as possible with that, whether it's a photo or something as quick as we can. Again, just thank you very much for coming out. We appreciate your participation in this. We couldn't have done this and found this individual alone, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think our honor guard's supposed to flag. I'm serious. What? Yeah.